health resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and
Hello and welcome. You're watching Gravitas. My name is Priyanka Sharma. Here's what's coming up on the show tonight. Our lead story tonight comes from Pakistan. Some shocking visuals came out today from Pakistan. A Hindu temple was attacked in Sindh with rocket launchers. I repeat, with rocket launchers. Reports suggest that a gang of dacoits was behind the attack. Homes belonging to Hindus in the region were also attacked. We are told the assailants fired indiscriminately. Why? What could have prompted this hate against Hindus in the region? Remember, this is one of many attacks on Hindu temples in recent years. So tonight on Gravitas, I will tell you what happened on ground. Let's not forget, Hindus form the biggest minority community in Pakistan. Should they be worried about their safety? We'll speak to our correspondent and get some crucial answers. What could have prompted this anti-Hindu sentiment? Why would anyone fire rocket launchers in a place of worship in Pakistan? Stay with me. What's happening in China? Why is youth unemployment so high? Is the China growth story over? On the show tonight, we'll give you some truth, but all through numbers. Iran's morality police is back on the streets. Women are being subjected to a moral code yet again. They're being policed. We'll tell you how. Now, the world is mourning the late Jane Birkin, but the Birkin bag is being celebrated. A handbag is being talked about more than the woman who inspired its creation. Why? On the show, I'll show you why this bag is so very precious. Question: what if you were forced to live with your ex to save money? Well, for many divorced couples in the United Kingdom, that's a strange reality. They're nesting with their ex to save on rent. We'll tell you what it's like to live with the enemy, so to speak. All coming up on the show tonight. Stay with me. Our cover story tonight is from Pakistan. It contains and concerns the state of Hindu temples. They're under attack once again. On Saturday morning, a temple was reportedly razed to the ground in Karachi. This was a 150-year-old Mari Mata temple located in the city's Soldier Bazaar. Reports say that diggers and a bulldozer demolished the entire structure, leaving only the temple's outer walls and the main gate intact. And that's not even the worst part. Police vehicles were apparently on the site, providing cover to the men operating these machines. The second incident unfolded on Sunday. A gang of dacoits allegedly attacked a Hindu temple in Sindh's Kashmir region. The attack apparently involved the use of rocket launchers. Yes. Pakistani fanatics destroyed a temple with rocket launchers. They also targeted the adjoining homes belonging to the Hindu community. These attacks are appalling to say the least. Pakistan's justification even more so. Local authorities say that the temple in Sindh was demolished as it was an old and dangerous structure that would have toppled any day. No one's buying this claim. You see, in recent weeks, the attacks on Pakistan's Hindu community have only intensified. They're being targeted as a fallout of the Seema Haidar case. What's that? Well, according to the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, around 30 members of the Hindu community, including women and children, have been taken hostage by armed gangs in the Kashmir and Ghotki districts in the Sindh province. Allow me now to quote its exact statement. We have received disturbing reports that these gangs have threatened to attack the community's sites of worship using high-grade weapons. The Sindh Home Department must investigate this matter immediately and take steps to protect all vulnerable citizens in these areas. My question is, how do we view such developments? What exactly has led to such attacks? Well, many speculate that the trigger for these attacks could be a cross-border love story. It involves a Pakistani woman and an Indian man. The woman's name is Seema Haidar Jakhrani, a mother of 4 who in 2019 decided to ditch her husband and fled to India with her kids. She's now married to her lover, Sachin Meena, a Hindu man who lives in Greater Noida. Now, for the last couple of weeks, this bizarre love story has been making headlines on both sides of the border. But the difference is in the reaction. In India, this story is being viewed with intrigue. That's it. But in Pakistan, it has upset religious fanatics. They're calling Seema Haidar's actions an insult to Islam. Many believe that her actions have also put Hindus in Pakistan in grave danger. They're being threatened and abducted as their places of worship are being attacked. These are all the cases linked to the Seema Haidar case. That's the question we want to answer tonight. Has this cross-border love story really made the lives of Pakistani Hindus worse? We don't know. But the fact is that atrocities against Pakistani Hindus have been going on for quite some time. This story might have given extremists another excuse to target them. Look at the numbers. In the last 3 years, there have been a slew of attacks on Hindu temples in Pakistan. On the 9th of June 2022, the idols of deities at a Hindu temple in Karachi were destroyed. On the 4th of August 2021, a Hindu temple in the Rahim Yar Khan district was vandalized. On March 18, 2021, a 100-year-old temple in Rawalpindi was attacked. And in January 2020, yet another temple was vandalized in the Sindh province. In July 2020, a temple's walls were razed right down to the ground in Islamabad. Then in August 2020, a Hindu temple in the Lairi region near Karachi was demolished. In October 2020, a temple was vandalized in the Sindh province. In December 2020, a temple was demolished in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. This begs the question, how many Hindu temples are left in Pakistan? Well, according to a survey by the All Pakistan Hindu Rights Movement, there were around 4,280 Hindu temples in Pakistan when the country was created. Today, there are only 380 left. What does this tell you? That Hindu temples in Pakistan have all but vanished. And this recent spate of attacks indicates that there's a full-fledged campaign to wipe out the ones that remain. If this is indeed over a love story, then extremists in Pakistan have a lot of self-introspection to do. How do the actions of one individual impact their faith? How does it threaten their religion so much that they have had to unleash such violence on the Hindu community in their own country? These are questions both the leaders and the people of Pakistan must ask themselves.
वैसे ये है श्री मेरी माता का मंदिर 16 बाजार नंबर 1 मुखी चौतराम रोड पे थाने के बिल्कुल सामने श्री मेरी माता का मंदिर है जिसको मुसम्मार किया जा रहा है रेखा नामी बदनाम 16 बाजार नंबर 1 मुखी चौतराम रोड पे.
And to answer all these questions and get more updates on ground, we have our correspondent Anas Malik now joining us live from Islamabad. Anas, thanks for joining us. Now, as we know, Karachi is home to many ancient Hindu temples. In fact, Hindus from the biggest minority community in Pakistan. What could be behind these recent spate of attacks?
Well, Priyanka, what we understand is that these recent attacks have been fueled by religious hatred and bigotry. There is no ambiguity in that. We've seen that the recent attacks that have been happening on precisely on the Hindu minority in the country are fueled by this rage. And while there might not be an explanation from the government's end, but largely what we see that these are linked to hate speech and religious intolerance. That has been the bigger case, and that is something that the authorities say that they are trying to look inwards and trying to address as time passes by. They have been doing these interfaith seminars, interfaith harmony campaigns have been launched time and again from the government, but little of the impact of it has been as yet, and the reason we see that these attacks on the minorities, they continue. Priyanka.
So how are authorities responding to these attacks, Anas?
The authorities say that they have been conducting campaigns and they have been trying to go after those who are behind these heinous attacks once they are identified. You see, the last time any such incident which was identified was the temple in Karak that was razed down, and the people who were involved, their properties were confiscated, sold off, and they were asked to pay for the renovation of the temple that they had vandalized. So largely speaking, the authorities say that they are trying to zero in on these elements, those who are involved and in actively trying to desecrate the religious sites, and they say that they are trying their utmost to ensure that such attacks do not happen. Priyanka.
Right, Anas, I have to ask this question in light of these recent attacks. Is the Hindu population in the region concerned about its safety?
Of course it is. They are concerned. That goes without saying. They are definitely concerned. We've seen that the Hindu minority in not just in Karachi but Sindh, the province of Sindh, has the biggest number of Hindu minorities across the country. We've seen migrations being taken place, some internally, leaving Tharparkar and other interior areas of interior Sindh and shifting to the metropolis of Karachi, or from Karachi to elsewhere, be that to India or be that elsewhere in the world. We have been seeing that that Hindu minority, the people from the community, they have been moving abroad in what they believe is a considerably safer future. There is a concern, and they call on the authorities to act and act swiftly and in time in order to save whatever is left of the community that is left behind. Priyanka.
Anas, thank you for those updates and thanks for joining us on Gravitas tonight. Let's move on now. It is the 17th of July. It is the start of a fresh week. And the Ukraine war is now entering its most cruel stage, one where the war is reduced to a killing fest. One where the offensive becomes all about maiming soldiers and injuring civilians. In the coming days, the war may hit a sense of stagnancy in terms of land gained or lost, but the death toll, the number of injuries, they will both see a brutal uptick. I'll tell you why. Just look at the weapons flowing in. US President Joe Biden has armed Ukraine with cluster bombs. Ukraine says these bombs will compensate for shell shortages. But cluster bombs are not just shells. There is a reason why they are banned in more than 100 countries, because they kill indiscriminately. Cluster bombs release what's called bomblets. They cause irreparable damage, and guess what? Some of these bombs fail to explode, and they remain a threat for decades. Now, Russia claims it has its own cluster bombs. Putin says his army has a quote-unquote sufficient stockpile of these bombs. In fact, why don't I read out that quote for you? I want to note that in the Russian Federation, there is a sufficient stockpile of different kinds of cluster bombs. We have not used them yet. But of course, if they are used against us, we reserve the right to take reciprocal action. That's Putin for you. Ukraine says it will not use these bombs in Russia, only use them to take back its own territory. But that's where matters become more complicated. What Kyiv claims as its own, Russia says is now Russian. Donbass, for example. Ukraine wants to employ these weapons against Russian field fortifications in open countryside, areas which are already infested with Russian minefields, areas which will now never be safe for civilians. This is the start to a brutal phase of the war. It is a domino effect waiting for a trigger. Ask yourself this. As Ukraine uses more lethal weapons, will Russia just stand by and watch? believe you me, it will fire too. It will inflict injuries as well. Biden is providing Ukraine with dual-purpose improved conventional munition, or what's called DPICM. They are designed to be fired from 155mm howitzer cannons. They are much, much deadlier than a conventional artillery shell. One round of a DPICM spreads 72 submunitions over a significant area. This happened earlier today. A road and rail bridge linking Russia to Crimea was blown up. This bridge is some 19 kilometers long. Blasts were reported before dawn. Moscow blames Kyiv for the blasts. Do you think Moscow won't reciprocate? Don't be surprised if it hits civilian targets. Are Ukraine and Russia taking a page out of this war book? If not directly, then indirectly, they are being pushed in that brutal direction. One defined by blood, by endless humanitarian crises. Earlier today, Russia ended the Black Sea grain deal. Was it the first of the many repercussions for the Crimean Bridge? The two events are not related, says the Kremlin. But do you believe them? We are now entering a phase much like World War I, where the West Front remained mostly static. But each side tried killing as many men from the enemy side as possible. It did not matter that there wasn't much progress, that there was limited tactical success, or that a larger victory eluded both sides. The idea was to wear down the other side by killing.
Поэтому ее действие прекращается. Как только российская часть договоренности будет выполнена, российская сторона вернется к реализации этой сделки.
Let me be clear. The military reality is that Russia has fortified its gains. There are multiple layers of defense in place, and Ukraine must now break through them if it is to win back land. The more lethal its weapons, the better Kyiv's chances, except that Ukraine won't be alone in the battlefield. For every fire, there will be a counterfire. And this crossfire will kill thousands. An eye for an eye will leave the entire battlefield blind. Our next story is from China. Has its growth story hit a roadblock? I don't ask this question without reason. According to reports, China's economic growth has missed forecasts in the second quarter of the year. This has added to worries that the country might need additional support for its tepid recovery. If we speak of numbers, China grew at a 6.3% annual pace in the April to June quarter. This is much slower than the 7+ growth which analysts had forecast given the anemic pace of activity the year before. Now, if we speak of unemployment, it rose to a record 21.3%, especially among the youth aged 16 to 24 years. This is slightly up from the 20.8% rate of unemployment which was recorded the month before. Let's talk about investment in property development, which is a vital driver of both industrial and consumer demand. It sank 7.9% in the first half of the year compared to a year earlier. Analysts say this is a troubling sign of persisting weakness in the industry. And naturally, this has set an alarming trend. Official data shows that the value of newly constructed commercial residential buildings continue to decline in almost all of the 70 largest cities in China. Those in Shenzhen, a major city abutting Hong Kong in the south, were down more than 5% over the January-June period compared with the year earlier. And immediately after these numbers were made public, China's benchmark CSI 300 index of stocks was down 1.1% as of the midday break, leading losses in Asia. It was the index's first decline in nearly 3 sessions. The onshore yuan weakened 0.4% at 7.17 per dollar just after noon, while the yield on 10-year government bonds edged slightly over to 2.64%. Now remember, over the past 3 decades, China's growth has underpinned the global economy, providing a generation of new demand, trailing only the United States when it comes to size. China's economy underpins prices for many commodities. It is also the source of an increasingly sophisticated array of goods, from electric vehicles to aircraft and renewable energy plants. So weaker demand at home may result in more of those products being exported. But will that help the Chinese economy? Well, only time will tell. Here's what I think. These moderate growth numbers are likely to stoke expectations of further government efforts to stimulate the economy to ensure a 5% growth target is reached for 2023. The central bank in China has already lowered borrowing rates several times in a bid to shore up demand in an economy where inflation has largely evaporated. In contrast to many other parts of the world, similar policy measures are likely to be announced after the Politburo meeting, including population and fiscal policies. So in a nutshell, China is going to take these numbers as a matter of embarrassment for its global image. Expect some major policy reform in the days ahead, and we, of course, will continue to track the story. Now, remember last week we told you how Iran was opening its football stadiums to women. We weren't too happy about it, and for the right reasons. It is too little and way too late. Over 4 decades too late to be specific. And guess what? Just when Iran took one step in the right direction, its moral police, its morality police, is planning to drag it further back. And once again, the victim will be women. Listen to this.
From today, police patrols will be established throughout the country. In addition to their other duties, these police officers will deal with those who unfortunately ignore the consequences of not wearing the proper hijab and insist on disobeying the norms. And in addition to warning them, if they disobey the orders of the police force, legal action will be taken and they will be referred to the judicial system.
Let me read that out again. Police patrols will be established throughout the country. These police officers will deal with those who ignore the consequences of not wearing the proper hijab. The moral police is at it again. Once again, the subject of women's rights has become a battleground. So how are Iranians reacting to this? Take a look.
Do you think the morality police can prevent women from not wearing a hijab? They cannot impose it like before. The number of people who do not obey is too high now. They cannot handle all of us. The last thing they can do is use violence and force against us. They cannot do it.
That's right. More and more women in Iran have been leaving their head uncovered. They have been openly defying the regime's strict dress code. Last year, on September 16th, 22-year-old Mahsa Amini was killed. What was her crime? The moral police said that she was flouting the dress code. For the first time ever, protests gripped Iran. Women were out on the streets burning their hijab, chopping off their hair, fighting back against the regime. The morality police failed to contain that rebellion. It largely withdrew from the streets. Authorities insisted that the rules had not changed. They turned the other way to enforce the law. Businesses where the staff didn't bend to the rules were closed down. Cameras were installed in public places to track down any offenders. In fact, earlier this year, the anti-hijab protests largely died down. Why? Due to a heavy crackdown by the hardliners. 500 protesters were killed, some 20,000 detained. 10 months after Mahsa Amini's death, it's almost like things are back to square one. Once again, the morality police will be out on the roads. Female police officers have already been seen berating and arresting women for not wearing the hijab. You see, Iranian women are punished for wearing what they want and discarding what they don't. For this simple privilege, which you and I take for granted, they face fines or prison terms of up to 2 months. The punishment has been getting out of hand. At least 60 female students in Iran have been barred from attending university. The professors who supported them were also attacked and banned. 4 women were forced to attend psychological classes. What goes on in these so-called counseling sessions? Psychological torture. The institutions claim that they try to reform and re-educate women who don't wear hijabs, that they are trying to prevent anti-social behavior. The truth is, they just try to brainwash or scare women into complying. Can you imagine? Just 10 months after Mahsa Amini's death, after nationwide protests, after thousands being killed and detained, the moral police is back. Punishment over defying the dress code is back. What did protesters get for risking their lives? An eyewash. Women's entry into football stadiums, that too only in selected cities, including the capital, Tehran. So I ask you tonight, who is Iran trying to fool with all this? The world isn't blind to its reality. Now let's talk about something which affects all of us, you and me, global warming. People are battling dangerously high temperatures from the United States to Japan. While the US is facing a heat wave, parts of Europe are expected to breach the record of 48.8 degrees Celsius. Remember, this is Europe we're talking about. In Japan, experts are warning that the nation could hit previous heat records. China has also made the list for reaching record temperatures. Take a look at what's coming for all of us.
This is the situation in California's Death Valley. It is known as one of the hottest places on Earth. And the temperature is now set to rise above 54 degrees Celsius. Authorities have warned people to avoid outdoor activities and be wary of dehydration.
Yeah, it's people that want to come to areas like Death Valley and experience the extremes. They want to know what the hottest temperatures feel like. And in a place like Death Valley, when we're talking about the hottest temperatures here, we might be talking about some of the hottest temperatures ever recorded.
This is Mexico. People are spraying water at animals to save them from the heat. Classrooms are empty as schools have cancelled their classes. Experts say temperatures are expected to peak at 41 degrees Celsius. These are just a few of the regions which are facing extreme heat conditions. But what are the nations doing to stabilize the situation? Today, US climate envoy John Kerry met his counterpart Xi Jinping in Beijing. The world's top 2 greenhouse gas emitters plan to rebuild trust. Kerry says that it is imperative that China and the United States make real progress. This comes 4 months before the UN-sponsored climate talks in Dubai. While the 2 top officials have talks, China is burning. Parts of China have hit an all-time high of 52.2 degrees Celsius.
Today, I've come to the legendary Flaming Mountains, experiencing the highest temperature in my life. The temperature indicated on the Jingubang is 80 degrees Celsius. It is very high.
In China's Guangdong province, zoos are watering their animals to keep them cool. You can see the elephants showering themselves in the extreme heat. Hippos are being fed watermelons to keep them hydrated.
They can take shower every day. They are very fond of it and very happy. We also have watermelons, apples and other food that help to cool them down.
But when it comes to heat waves, one of the worst hit places is Europe. This is Italy. People are waiting in lines with irritated faces. Tourists flocking towards fans or trying to get something to drink. Umbrellas can be seen saving people from the sun. Parts of Europe are set to breach the record of over 48 degrees Celsius. The record was set by the Italian city of Sicily in 2021. Officials say that last month was the second hottest on record in France. Spain is experiencing another extreme event: forest fires. This is the Canary island of La Palma. At least 500 people have been evacuated due to the raging fire. The fire has destroyed several homes of the Spanish island. Although the cause of the blaze is still unknown, strong winds are still contributing to the spread of the fire. Now moving on from Europe, parts of Asia are facing another disaster: floods. The Indian capital of New Delhi, the Yamuna River has risen to its highest in 45 years due to heavy rainfall. The government says thousands have been evacuated to relief camps. Officials have announced a compensation of $120 for families affected. While most schools are reopening, 13 schools are being used as relief camps for affected families. New Delhi has received a rainfall which is 91% above normal. In South Korea, the intense rain has killed at least 40 people. Landslides and flooding have left motorists missing. Experts say the government has not properly allocated funds. Authorities are spending more on recovery and not enough on prevention. Is it too late for us to save ourselves from extreme weather events? Scientists seem to believe so. They say that keeping global warming within 1.5 degrees is becoming the long-lost dream. The evidence is on your screens. Will countries come up with a solution in the coming climate talks in Dubai? Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
As I told you, the planet is heating up. Weather patterns have changed. You can see climate change in action. Natural disasters have become more frequent. And how are we reacting to it? By clicking selfies, or should I say killfies. That's the only way I can describe what I'm about to show you. Killfies because these selfies can get you killed. People may think they are shooting the picture, but truth be told, they are the ones getting shot. Take a look at this video that is currently doing the rounds on the internet. Did you see that? The incident took place in India's financial capital, Mumbai. The woman was posing for a picture with her husband at bandstand. She had asked her kids to remain at a safe distance while she sat dangerously close to the shore during high tide. In a matter of seconds, she was washed away by the tides. You can hear the kids screaming in the video. Mumbai Coast Guard found her body 20 hours later. It can happen to anyone, some would say, but it's avoidable, to say the least. Let's move on to India's national capital now. On Gravitas, we have been reporting how New Delhi has been inundated by the Yamuna River. Many key areas of the capital still remain flooded. For the people of Delhi, these areas have become selfie points. Commuters are clicking pictures against the view of the swollen river. Hundreds of people on two-wheelers and cars were seen halting along the bridges to record videos. Many even climbed atop their vehicles to capture the perfect selfie. It was so bad that Delhi's chief minister had to address it. Through a tweet, he said, and I quote, "There are reports that some people are going to play or swim in the water or click selfies. Please don't do this. This can be fatal. The danger of flood has not passed yet." Imagine having to call out people on something so basic. There's more. Another video has gone viral on social media. In this one, trekkers were seen doing sit-ups near the Goa-Karnataka border. They were reportedly punished by the railway police force. What for? These trekkers got off their train between stations and crossed the railway tracks to reach the waterfall. This is prohibited and punishable under the Railways Act. It was not only risky for the trekkers, but also for other trains scheduled to pass by. Look, I get it. You may think that during the monsoon, the cascading waterfall amid lush greenery creates a rather picturesque scene. It is totally Insta-worthy. But is it worth losing your life, all for a picture? A few months ago, a 19-year-old girl fell to her death from a Ferris wheel in West Bengal. How come? Was there a technical glitch? Was there foul play? No, none of it. As I have been telling you, it was again because of a selfie, a killfie. These incidents have become increasingly common in India. In Odisha's Raigad district, a 14-year-old boy died of electrocution while clicking selfies atop a train. 2 of his friends were left injured. In Indore, a youngster died after falling into an 800 feet deep gorge. He was also trying to click a picture. In Noida, a 15-year-old girl died after falling from the terrace of her house. It was at the hands of a selfie again. Do you want me to go on? These incidents are just from the last 6 months. There are many more. India is now being called the world capital for selfie deaths. This is a global problem as well. The data is limited, but it's enough to draw a picture. Between 2011 and 2017, 259 selfie deaths and accidents have been reported across the world. According to research from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, or AIIMS, half of those mishaps occurred in India. a majority of them related to drowning, being hit by a train or a car, or falling from a height. While India tops the list, Russia, the United States and Pakistan are just behind. You see, the selfie culture is more pervasive in India. People see it as a way to promote themselves, to boost their confidence, to express themselves. But let's face it, it's a vanity project, an indulgence. And it's killing you in more ways than one. The selfie fever has gotten out of hand. Look, I'm not stopping you from clicking those selfies. By all means, do it. But do it responsibly. Don't let it be a threat to your safety or that of others. I can't believe I have to say this. Take selfies, but don't get killed. Now, the world is mourning Jane Birkin. She was an actor, singer, and more famously, the muse behind the famous Hermes Birkin bag. Many Indians learned about this Birkin bag when in 2011, Pakistan's then foreign minister arrived in India flaunting a Birkin. In no time, the bag became a Twitter trend, with people guessing its price tag. So how much does a Birkin really cost? Well, let me answer that for you. An Hermes Birkin can cost up to $2 million. That's 16 crore rupees. You can buy a house of 10 or buy a Birkin. Birkin owners will tell you that the bag is an investment. What makes it so special? I mean, there's luxury like Louis Vuitton, Gucci and Prada. And then there's the Hermes Birkin. It is a different league altogether. It is not only a symbol of luxury, but also of exclusivity. Its story began on a flight. The year was 1984. Jane Birkin was traveling from Paris to London on a red-eye. By then, she had already established herself as a fashion icon. The world loved her style and the iconic straw baskets that she carried around. She had brought one of those bags to that flight as well. Her co-passenger was Jean-Louis Dumas, who was then the artistic director and CEO of the French luxury design house Hermes. The two got talking, and then it was time to take off. So Birkin had to store her bag in the overhead luggage compartment, and as she tried to do so, all her essentials fell out. Dumas helped her gather those belongings, and then she suggested that Jane should use a handbag with pockets, a novelty factor that time. The actress replied that she would love to, except that it is hard to find a bag that is spacious yet stylish. She went on to say that the day Hermes made a large everyday bag that would hold everything that a busy mother carries daily, she will ditch her signature basket for an Hermes bag. Now this got the CEO thinking. He decided to make the most of the flight. He took out an air sickness bag and began sketching the first draft of what would go on to become the iconic Birkin. The bag was released a year later. It was minimalist, yet stylish, much like Jane Birkin's personal style. But unlike her, the bag failed to impress. Initially, of course. Back then, Chanel bags would dominate the luxury fashion market. But those who did end up buying a Birkin are now sitting on thousands of dollars. The bag that was $2,000 in 1984 is at least $10,000 now. Over the years, the Hermes Birkin became a hit. The reasons are various and many. One, you have the association with the late Jane Birkin. Two, a lot of credit also goes to the TV series Sex and the City, where a character named Samantha says something on the lines of, "It is not a bag, it is a Birkin." Reason number three, Birkins are limited. These bags are not mass-produced. Hermes claims that each piece is created by a single artisan who spends a minimum of 18 hours on the bag. The craftsman then must undergo 2 years of training before he or she can start assembling a Birkin. The artisan's name is then crafted onto the bag along with a unique code and the name of the workshop where it was created. Every year, Hermes only makes a certain number of these Birkins. How many? They won't say. Is this scarcity marketing? Absolutely. Also, you can't just walk into an Hermes store and buy a Birkin. You need to be on the list. You need to have a purchase history with the brand. Meaning, if you have not previously bought an Hermes product, you won't be able to buy a Birkin. This exclusivity only adds to the allure of the bag. It's like the forbidden apple, one that's become a modern-day heirloom. Some believe the bag is a better investment than even gold. In 2021, a Himalaya Birkin sold at the Sotheby's for $300,000. Then you have the diamond Birkins that can go up to $260,000. While most only dream of getting their hands on a Birkin someday, for celebrities, the mantra is the more the merrier. After all, the Hermes Birkin is a symbol of having arrived. Speaking of having arrived, let's talk about the star who is shining ever so bright today. The 2023 Wimbledon men's singles final delivered the blockbuster encounter one expects when the top two players in the world face off. Carlos Alcaraz ended Novak Djokovic's reign on centre court. It signaled a generational shift in the sport. Take a look.
After 4 hours